Welcome back, day class students to Combat Connections. You're here with Lucario and Beast King. Masa and Lo are both away for this week. And so me and Beast decided we're going to talk about a subject that we both have some sort of varying experience on that not a lot of people do talk about when it comes to the martial arts. And that is choreography in like martial arts fight scenes or choreography as a training method, the benefits it has, and how applicable it really is.
All right, yeah. What's up, everybody? I suppose usually used to a lot more people being here, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, how do you want to get this started?
I suppose let's just start off with a nice simple conversation. What's some of your favorite choreography, martial arts choreo you've seen, like a good fight scene you enjoy?
I'd say some of the best martial arts choreography I've probably seen has more so been like the Ip Man films, obviously, and then you've also got some of the actually, yeah, the spinoff to Never Back Down, the ones focusing mostly on like Boyaka is really fucking good in terms of like kicks and actual. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say applicable stuff, but just in terms of fight scenes, theirs is a lot better, especially Scott Adkins' fight with Lateef Crowder in that film is really good.
Yeah, Scott Adkins is a really good like stunt actor and martial artist. He's done a couple of episodes of Stuntmen React on the Corridor YouTube channel and gone through some of the different things about how he finds his formal martial arts training applicable into the stunt world and what it's like working with like MMA fighters who come in to do scenes with him.
Yeah, I've definitely seen his channel. I've been watching his interviews a lot lately on his personal YouTube channel too. I like his one currently with Tony Jaa. I thought that one was pretty interesting, honestly. Especially seeing how Tony Jaa is definitely one of those martial arts actors who like has a style that you typically wouldn't really expect to mesh super well with like, film. I mean, as far as Muay Thai goes, even traditional Muay Thai, I wouldn't say it's probably the most like appealing style when it comes to like looks, but he makes it work very well.
Yeah, I mean, typically when you think of like fight scenes in movies, you think of like, as you said, Ip Man, and if you go into like all the old Hong Kong cinema and things like that, that you think of like Jackie and Bruce Lee and Jet Li and like all the old kung fu stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think of like either kung fu for the most part or like Kali or Salat. I mean, those three really, for the most part, bring out a lot of just pretty good fight scenes when it comes to movies. I never really thought about how capoeira or I mean not capoeira, but how Muay Thai or Sanda would really look on the big screen.
Yeah, I think if you think about fight choreography and you ask about fight choreography, one thing you'll find a lot of stunt people they do wushu, taekwondo, kali, and salat, and that's like a big sort of mix together that is like done by a large amount of people in, especially like LA, like with the Inosanto Academy and stuff. A lot of people that do stunts in films and TV go there.
Yeah, I've seen some of Robert Downey Jr.'s like training videos and Wing Chun. That shit's really fucking fun to watch.
And that stuff is really cool. You wouldn't expect it like from him. As, like he does all most of his fight scenes in like Marvel and stuff are all like, you know, energy blasts and stuff like that. But you can really see it when it's given time to shine that he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, honestly, like as much as I know it isn't really a part of like Tony Stark as a character, I really do wish we got that scene from like Earth's Mightiest Heroes where we got to see Tony and Cap actually square up like in a boxing ring. That shit would have been kind of interesting to see because I mean everybody more or less thinks of Tony Stark in the aspect that he really can't fight, but like I feel like Robert Downey Jr. could probably bring a new like depth to that character when it does come to actual hand-to-hand combat in a sense.
I mean, yeah, like you see his Sherlock fight choreography.
Yeah. Honestly, I will say I don't really like the Sherlock fight choreography as much though. Weirdly enough, I don't know. It's just
I
even
mean, you
being
have that big iconic scene, and you've got a few others that don't get shared around as much.
I mean, fair enough. Like Sherlock Holmes as a fighter, even in the books, is just something I don't really cared for too much because like I get it, especially being someone who does or did kung fu for a time. Like there is definitely that sense of pressure point fighting. I mean, it's a thing people do look for, and it is in a sense a real thing. But I never really liked how they broke down his fight scenes in both the books and in a lot of the live action adaptations.
Yeah, true. But I mean, like, so we were talking about Scott Adkins, and you said the Ip Man films, and like Scott Adkins' fight in Ip Man 4 was like probably one of the best fight scenes of like modern martial arts cinema, I
Yeah,
would
like
say.
as far as brutal fight scenes go, that made the year. Like, and probably is like the most brutal fight in all of the Ip Man films, I'd say. Because, like, if you think about it, that was the only fight where he really like could have probably died. I mean, you could argue the Muay Thai. I mean, not the Muay Thai fight, but the fight with Mike Tyson. Like, he was more or less testing him there. I'm sure if it kept going, he would have knocked him out, especially if it was like a real life actual fight. But like Scott Adkins' character was like pushing his shit back completely. Like that was the only fight we actually get to see where Matt is like for the most part on the defensive.
Yeah, definitely. I feel where you're coming from with that. I'd
Yeah.
say some of my favorite like action choreography I see is I was really into Arrow when that first started, and the like the
Oh yeah, Arrow was really good when it first dropped. Yeah.
especially when they started like mid season 3 when they went to the League of Assassins.
Yeah. Honestly, I love early Arrow seasons just because like I get why you write, Oliver Queen the way you do for later seasons, but in the first two or three where he just doesn't give a shit about killing or harming people and is just solely dedicated to that whole revenge mission, like you get to see the best of his fucking combat abilities when he is just not giving a shit. Because it's a trait I honestly wish they had kept for his character. I mean, they could have obviously toned it down a little bit to the point where he's only killing like major villains and stuff like that. But like, holy shit! Like every fight with him was like a Daredevil hallway fight. They should definitely like do some more stuff with that at some point.
Yeah. Another one of my favorite fight scenes. This came out, I think, 2015. Have you ever seen the movie Legend?
No, I have not actually.
So Legend is a film about two gangsters from England in the 60s. And Tom Hardy played both of they were twins, and Tom Hardy played both of them. And there was this one really massive fight scene in a pub that was just like really funny. So I'm gonna share that with you. Okay. So yeah, with this fight scene, we were talking a bit about the Sherlock Holmes fight scenes, and I feel like with a lot of portrayals of Sherlock Holmes, they have like obviously Robert Downey Jr. was doing Wing Chun, and like the new Netflix one about Sherlock's sister. She
Oh,
was
wait a
doing
minute.
like
I've heard of this film.
yeah, she was doing like jujitsu and stuff, and I feel like a lot of people want them to do like boxing and what's it like pugilism and bartitsu or whatever the pugilist like old English thing is meant to be that one of our friends keeps going off about. But this fight scene I think is a really good sort of display of like that sort of like outside of like the normal choreography of a lot of parries and weapons and trapping and spins and stuff. This is what I'd call one of the more realistic fight scenes.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it.
So let's give it a little watch.
Face.
Yeah.
You don't mind if I pour myself a pint, yeah?
What is that?
Yeah, what do you think, Puff? It's a fucking tool.
No, it's not. It's a fucking rolling pin. Who are you, Fanny Craddock? What you gonna do with that? You gonna bake me a cake? You gonna sing me a song, watch me blow out me fucking candles? I come here for a fucking shootout, right? A proper shootout with some proper men. Like Colonel Custer and Geronimo. Have you ever heard of them? No. Because you were too busy in your penny baking fucking fairy cakes, weren't you? Rich, this lot of fucking nonsense to a man. They're fucking nonsense. Get out me fucking way. Go on, get up. Go on, fuck off. Call yourself a fucking gangster. A shootout, right, is a fucking shootout!
The Baltimore is strong with this one.
uh,
Wankers.
The best part is this is all just a distraction so that he can leave and get ready to actually fight.
Oh, your brother's done a runner.
Nah, he's just genuinely disappointed with you, that's all.
I love good fight dialogue.
Look at that. Full of iron, that is. It takes a while, that does, you know, to settle.
Well, Charlie Richardson said we're to knock the granny out of you, Reg.
Oh, yeah, he did he? That's good of him. Right, listen. When you see him next, you tell him from me, yeah, that I say, fuck Charlie, right? And fuck his brother, yeah? And fuck that fat Georgie Cornell that hangs out with him. Fuck your face, yeah? Yeah? And fuck the fucking lot of you as well. What do you think of that, eh? You like that? You won't mind if I fight back, will you?
Well, you think you could manage it?
Ah, it's more from your pride, really, to be honest. I mean, I warn you, I'm not going to fight fair, though. So I brought these. All right.
Hell yeah.
As I've said, best
Let
weapon
the
for
good
self-defense.
hand come back.
Always keep the fence.
Hell yeah.
Oh,
I feel like I'm back home already.
oh, oh.
Oh God. Okay. Old Tyson. That's a bit much, Jay. I mean, I'm down for a good ass whooping, but taking somebody's ears a little bit much. God damn. Okay. Shit. Get him with the other one. Yup. Yup.
You're welcome.
Gotta do both. Gotta do both.
Yeah. So the thing with that, the thing about, so for a little context, they were both known to be like really good boxers and training from their youth, and so that film decided to display it a little bit.
Honestly, I will say, out of as far as like most criminal fight scenes go, that's probably the most realistic you'd probably get for like London or just a period of that time. Because I mean, even with like American and like the whole gangster fucking era, more or less, I mean, you couldn't necessarily go everywhere fully strapped, you know, in terms of guns and everything. Even then, like more often than not, I mean, a straight up fucking duel between two gangs would more or less just be that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's a
But
brawl.
I just think that was a really good pool. Like it had a good sort of like build up dialogue, which even real fights, just like street fights, self defense situations, there's normally like a conversation beforehand. That one was just fucking hilarious. But then like the way they actually used the boxing and they had like push it like going up against the bar and using the knees, and I will maintain this, I've said this 100 fucking times, a hammer is the best weapon. Not like a war hammer, just a straight toolbox hammer.
Yeah. Also, I found that film I was talking about. It's called The Blood of the Dragon. That is probably like as shitty as it was, like as the production was for it. That has really good choreography in terms of like weaponry and stuff, and just a really good story.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you guys ever want to like check out a pretty good martial arts film where I will say like the camera quality is not the best. I mean, I don't know more so when this was filmed, but however they went about it is very apparent.
Is it an old kung fu movie?
Yeah, it is a very
Wu-Tang
old
Collection. It's 1971.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
it's really good though.
Yeah, it sounds it. Okay, so I think we should clarify for people, because we never really stated it. Why are we talking about this? Like I said, you and me have something in common to do with this. Why did we choose to discuss this today?
Well, in terms of my end of everything, I suppose right now, currently speaking, just due to me being out at university, I don't have the ability to do kung fu in the way that I would like anymore. But one of the few options I was able to find out here in alternatives for free was this school's current combat stage club. And with that, I've been actually training for like the past couple months now in terms of stage combat and how to make things look good for audiences and just overall a lot of fight choreography. And even though I am not personally a film major and actively performing in a lot of these events that the club has going, a lot of my classmates and a lot of the people within this club are actually going out and doing various plays and films at any one time. They just had a play for The Outsiders, which had a massive fight scene in it. And they were working really hard to get everything down with that. And currently, I don't know whether there's going to be a fight scene with that, but everybody seems very hyped for their adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, which is going to be occurring sometime this week.
I wonder what fight scenes you're gonna have for Alice in Wonderland.
I'm not too sure. I mean, I'm not sure whether there's going to actually be some fight scenes with that one, but
I can imagine the Mad Hatter doing some capoeira.
Yeah, that'd be funny to see. Either way, everybody seems very hyped for it. Like I said, I'm not personally in any of the film classes. I was just more or less looking into something that would more or less keep me fit and I could learn some more stuff, which I have been doing, but I'm personally not a part of any of the plays or anything like that.
Yeah. And on my end, I've mentioned it when we started the channel. I do study film, or I did study film. I've just finished my higher national diploma in film studies. And so, on top of being a martial artist doing film, my whole thing was that I want to make action comedy movies and I like good fight choreography.
Yeah.
So, one thing that put me onto the idea of why fight choreography can be good for actual martial arts is in Shorinji Kempo, and I think they have the same thing in some Japanese jiu-jitsu styles, and in I think the BBC had said something about it being in Shaolin Temple, is we have what we call it as Embu, and Embu is choreographed fight scenes. So it's the point of Embu. It's not so a lot of places will choreograph a fight scene for a demonstration purpose or a display. That's not really the point of an Embu, although they do have Embu competition to see who can do the best Embu. Embu, like choreography, the point is to practice everything from the whole syllabus, the jiu-jitsu, the kung fu, the karate, the boxing, the weapons, all at full contact, full level. Because like most schools you go to, it doesn't matter what you're doing, if it's karate, if it's like kickboxing, something like that, you're not ever going 100%. Like your hits are meant to hit, like, but unless you're in a competition, if you're in like an MMA match or a boxing match, you're only ever doing like semi-contact. You're not trying to knock someone out, you know?
Yeah.
But with Embu, you start off, you build up these Embus, and it can take a year, 2 years to build up an Embu. You start by deciding the moves you're going to do. You just start flowing and seeing what will work out. Really light contact, and you build it up speed as you put a block to every move. So none of the moves are meant to make contact until you get thrown or something, essentially. And like, so you can block everything, and you just learn. If you miss your block, then you get hit, and you keep working on it and build up the point till you don't miss your blocks, and you can practice all of your kicks, all of your punches, all your blocks, all your throws, and even like your stick or your knife or whatever. Full speed, full contact, and if they miss, that's on them. They get knocked out, and that's the point of an Embu.
I wish we were that good, dude. Like when it comes to our schools, like stage combat club, since everybody there for the most part are actors who are wishing to learn these things, they can't exactly be afford to be bruised or anything on stage. So we're completely non-contact. That being said, the instructor is actually an instructor for both Kali and Taekwondo and some other arts, I believe. He's certified. So whenever we're actually doing our, performances and our drilling, we are doing applicable moves, especially when it came to training knives. Most recently, we were doing pretty much straightforward Kali knife work, just without any form of real contact and with dull blades.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't expect to be doing full contact with your like. It's good you can learn certain drills and stuff, but like, yeah, that's the real thing. Is like, but even if you watch a fight scene, I know a lot of fight scenes implement undercranking, which is when they film at 25 frames and play back at. No, they film at 22 frames and play back at 24, so it looks faster than what it is. But still, they're going at a good speed. And we were talking about Scott Adkins earlier. On one of his videos, he mentioned that he would see like people that have been doing stunts for a long time, or even professional fighters, like having bruises and feeling injuries in their arms from like blocking hits and stuff. Like you get some good conditioning because you're repeating these same hits at this speed over and over and over again.
Yeah. I will say, like, everybody there, even though they are actors, they do have a very good level of just like more or less concepts in terms of like angles and distance and things like that. Since nobody there is filming actual films, but stage performances, you have to make everything look believable in real time, on the spot. So, like, with a lot of our punches, you need to know what angle you're hitting from. You need to know the net. You need to know where to slap your body or where your opponent needs to slap for, the sound effect of it all and everything like that.
Mm. So
Yeah.
here's an embu for you. We can still discuss over it. It's not going to have the sound going, but just for a little bit of demonstration for you, you've probably seen this, but the audience. If it plays.
All right.
So yeah, this is our choreographed fight scenes basically with these are both black belts. That's why they're wearing that robe. Black belts can wear that robe in like ceremonies and stuff. But yeah, so the point is that they can go full power on each other and practice the throws, the locks, and the hits in sequence. They've probably been practicing this for like months and months beforehand so that neither of them get knocked out whilst doing this.
I was gonna say, if you were to just like see this on the street, you probably would assume it was most certainly a real fight up until they let the other person go, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it is definitely good. They form with one another very well in the sense that, like, you can definitely tell, even though each person knows what's going to happen next, there is still that very much believable reaction between every movement.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, stop the share. So like, how do you feel about the idea of choreography being actually applicable? And I know you said you've done some like knife drills and stuff that you feel are actually applicable and maybe somewhat reminiscent of Kali drills, which we've said a lot of fight choreographers use Kali.
Yeah.
In terms of actually learning a choreography and using it in how it can be used to help you in combat, how do you feel?
I feel it very much depends on, firstly, who's teaching you and how they're going about it. For instance, we all are aware of how Donnie Yen and Jackie Chan, for instance, do their own stunts. Like, in a lot of those films, like even Chris Atkins has come out and said, yeah, no, like they hit each other hard. Like some of these films, especially like Sammo Hung as a director, like they are punching the fuck out of one another. If you have someone like that, then yeah, you're probably good if you run across the average, thug on the street trying to, pull some shit on you. You might be good in that angle. However, I will say, I think when it comes to martial arts choreography in terms of the use of application, it's more so a glass cannon than anything else. Even with a good instructor, like, we have a pretty good one who's teaching us a lot of like Kali, Krav, and like Taekwondo stuff. It is good to understand the fact that you might be able to learn how to defend yourself and apply some of that in terms of like a fight against someone who knows not what they're doing. But if you do try and take this into a ring, you're probably going to get slaughtered, though.
Yeah. And as with everything, you still need to have free fighting in terms of being able to apply. This helps you learn to maybe flow better, and it helps you practice everything at a faster speed, using your full effort. But like it also helps you with break falling as well. Like you're definitely going to learn to break fall if you're doing any sort of choreography. But you still need to be able to
learn that.
You still need Randori, Kumite, Sanda, free fighting to let you see what's coming. So, by the way, this is another Embu. These are I don't know what country these guys are from, but they're in military boots, in full uniform, doing a Kempo Embu. So,
looking at the trees,
keep in mind these are still toe caps.
Yeah, I was going to say, looking at the trees, they're closer to the equator, so probably somewhere in the Pacific.
I think this is Indonesia.
Yeah, this is towards the east, given the trees.
Look at those kicks with the army boots on, man. That's got to hurt no matter how you slice it.
Oh yeah, no, I have kicked people back when I was in ROTC with the fucking combat boots on. Like you can kick doors open with those things and not feel it. They are like boxing gloves for your feet. Or I guess battering rams in a sense. I will say, like, they have to have pretty fucking good conditioning to try and like basically parry those kicks because
Well, that's another
even if you're
thing. That's the thing with Kempo is we parry kicks with the soft part of our arm rather than the bone. So it means we need a little less conditioning. It stings, but it doesn't do us as much damage.
well, I mean, the thing is though, like with those types of boots specifically, if I'm like halfway trying, I can still shatter somebody's arm if they block the wrong way with that. Those might even be steel tips. It's kind of hard to see just with the quality of the video, but they very well could be.
I'd assume they are. Okay. There we go.
Well, I mean, not always. Most army boots are just regular army boots, but I mean, for certain locations and deployments, you can see steel toes being used and applicable.
So, what do you think is the best thing you've learned from from starting in choreographic martial arts?
I'd say the most important thing I've learned thus far has been more or less just more so a sense of control, I suppose. I mean, one aspect of combat I definitely kind of never really got down doing Sando was, once you programmed your body to respond in a certain manner, it really is hard to, stop that. Like whenever I play fight with my friends, like I have friends back home who are like big into WWE, so they pretty much already knew a lot of that stuff. I was always the guy who kind of, slipped up. Oh, sorry, your nose is now splattered, but like it's definitely taught me a lot of things in terms of self-control and how to more or less pull hits and things like that. Where if I had just continued doing nothing but pure combat sports, I probably would have still, had some issues with that.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it's a thing of like control is like something you can learn a lot.
Yeah, because like usually whenever I get hyped up and I'm going out for a match or I'm going to go train, my body just takes over that whole thing of, you're not even really thinking about it. You're throwing a punch, I'm going for, the head, I'm going for the body, I'm going for that sense of contact. And that was pretty tough at first to more or less overcome. I've gotten to the point where it's not really an issue now, but even then I still had my slip ups. Like with the very last, class I had for stage combat, we were supposed to be doing pushes and I was accidentally palm striking a lot of people.
Damn, bro. What was I gonna say? I feel like what I've learned most is like range, because in fight choreography you have to think so much about pulling your punch and learning where to place it and how not to put it that far, is that you sort of subconsciously learn how to like you just measure range yourself. It's not like a thing where you end up thinking about it at the end of it. Like it really does give you a good sort of thing of like getting it in the right length.
Yeah, it definitely does teach you how to measure range without using the contact of combat as a thing. Because, like, if I'm just fighting, I'm going to measure my range by how my jabs hit and how they don't, or where my kicks sit and where they don't, rather than having to actually sit there with my partner and us have to actually figure out, sometimes in real time, how far we are without actually making that contact. Which is very important given like the use of weapons. Because I mean, for Sanda, I never really had to use any weapons in terms of training our traditional. That never became a thing. As soon as I got to combat club, we're using real knives. They're just dulled down.
100%, yeah. And I think one thing you always hear, and you'll hear it about Bruce Lee especially, but sort of anyone who does stunt choreography, you always hear, well, they can't actually fight, they're just in movies. But like these dudes take like 10 times the hits of anyone else because they have to take these hits and these falls. And most of the time, the falls are like on wires as well. So they're not just getting like thrown over, they're getting pulled into something. They're taking all these falls, they're taking all these hits. So you know they can take it. And they're still like probably 100 times faster than you are. Like, I guarantee you go to Scott Adkins and his kicks are going to be twice your speed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, when it comes down to it, I think that generalization more or less comes from ignorance. Because like guys like Donnie Yen and like Jackie Chan and shit, they will fuck you up if you try and fight them. Like, even if you have a good modicum of like actual, just practical skills, I still think underestimating those types of people is probably one of the worst mistakes you could probably make. And personally speaking, I have a friend back home who used to go to like the WWE summer camps. Like, he was big into wrestling. Like, if it wasn't for his mom wanting him to do law school, he probably would be like doing his damnedest to get into the fucking WWE. Because like all he used to do was just like jump off of chairs or go to the fucking summer camps where they had with like John Cena and shit there, practicing how to take punches and shit like that. Like, I dead ass can tell you right now, right here, even years later, I'm fucking like what, 19? He's like probably 18 now. And we've known each other since like kindergarten. He's probably one of the hardest people I've ever met to actually physically knock out. Like, even if I was trying, I'd have to put 100% into making sure he is actually sleeping. Because if he's not, he's still swinging.
Yeah, like you underestimate how much endurance can do for you with like once you learn to take it, how much you can take it and how much you can keep going afterwards.
Yeah.
Like I was gonna say, and also it's like they all do actual martial arts. Like a large amount of them, they didn't just say, oh, I want to start jumping around. Some of them do like parkour and stuff or like dance or something, but a lot of them do actual like real martial arts.
Yeah.
Like
I will
Jackie
say,
does. Jackie
yeah.
did do his theater training. He also did Wing Chun, Hung Gar, Hapkido.
Yeah. And I will say, even with the people who do like, in the rarer cases, purely like choreography based stuff, like we've had this conversation off cam before. Like, I fully believe Jet Li probably could drop most like immediate to like untrained people. Like, in his film Fist of Fury, he was basically doing proto Sanda in a sense. And that is someone who is known to, take punches and take, actual hits on set. Like, yeah. I am very much sure he could probably fuck up.
For those who don't know, it's like a common fact spoken about in the martial arts community that Jet Li, whilst training in the Beijing Wushu Academy, refused to take Sanda like sparring classes. He only took forms and performance stuff. And like, he probably isn't a professional fighter, but let me see you take a hit from Jet Li.
I was going to say, like, Fist of Fury is what personally proved that to me. Even if he didn't do Sanda, every move he was making in that film, like that, his entire character is basically a Sanda practitioner in that film. Like, his entire thing is he's blending kung fu with Western boxing and kickboxing. Like, all of his movements are the same shit we're doing. There's like some stuff that's a little bit off, but his style in that film is quite literally just like a proto version of Sanda. And he is pretty goddamn good at doing it.
Also, Donnie Yen has like an improvised weapons fight in one of his films where he had a baston and one of his opponents had a tanto, and they had a weapons fight. And it was improvised for like part of the fight.
Yeah, I will say, like, when it comes to a lot of the martial arts film actors and stuff out there, them not being people who are actively on camera in terms of like actual combat, like, I don't know, it's just some stuff, while some things do get blown out of proportion, like a lot of Bruce Lee's legends, I'd say, there is definitely still a bit of reality in the sense that those aren't people you want to fucking fight. Like Jet Li, I don't know where I fall. I mean, not Jet Li, but Donnie Yen, I don't know where I fall on that story of his where he beat 8 people coming back from a movie theater. But I mean, it's not impossible. I wouldn't fucking doubt it. If they don't know anything about fighting, he probably could have. And this was like Donnie Yen back like in his
Story are you
20s.
talking about?
I figure you'd know, being a big Ip Man film and everything. I heard a story that was circulating around a couple years ago that when Donnie Yen was walking back from a movie theater not too long after the first production of the first Ip Man film, that he got jumped by guys and managed to fuck them up.
I've not heard that one. I've heard Jackie Chan's one. Did you hear Jackie's one?
I haven't heard any stories about Jackie really.
I think it was 7 guys jumped Jackie. He was like 17 at the time, and they jumped him, and he beat all of their asses like really hard, and he had a bone sticking out of his hand after the fight, and he spent like the whole day trying to just push the bone back in until eventually he was like, okay, this isn't working. I need to actually go to a doctor's, and he went to the doctors, and they're like, Jackie, that's not a bone, that's a guy's tooth.
Yikes. Honestly, like I said, when it comes to a lot of stories and things, there's always something to be taken with a grain of salt. But like, as I've said, I think it is a genuine mistake to underestimate these people when it comes to like a fight. And when it comes to a lot of those MMA guys on the internet saying, "Oh, these guys are nothing, they ain't shit," I'd like to see you fight them. I really would. Everybody is fucking tough on cam, they're tough online, but it's usually like my grandfather said it best. It's usually the loudest dog that is usually a bitch. It's the quiet one you got to watch out for because that's the one that's going to take a chuck out of your leg.
And like, I won't say I wouldn't fight them. I'd love to fight them. Any of them, Donnie, Jackie, Jet Li, like Scott. I'd love to fight any of them. I'm not gonna win. But it's be a good learning experience, but I'm not gonna win.
Oh yeah, no, like I'm down. Like
even though Jackie's like what Jackie's like 60 now.
Probably, yeah. He's definitely getting up there. I actually have his first ever film in the corner there.
Which one?
Fearless Hyena.
Mm.
Yeah, that's actually a really good film. It's just kind of weird and like very much dated, but it is one of his very first actual films that he was, the main character in.
Jackie Chan is 67.
Yeah, no, he looks like he's like maybe like in his teens to early 20s. Fearless Hyena.
Chuck Norris is 81. Holy hell.
Yeah, no, that's not surprising. The dude's been in like everything. He's been around longer. Honestly, like sometimes I really do wonder, like just how different the world of martial arts would be if
Jackie was 25 in Fearless Hyena.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, no, like I was saying, sometimes I genuinely do wonder how different the world of martial arts would be if either Bruce Lee or Kung Lee were more so either in their prime or just, well, I mean, I guess in the case of Bruce Lee, if he was alive simply during the time UFC came about, and for Kung Lee, whether he was, more or less in his prime at that time period to actually engage in matches. Because a lot of people really do underestimate when it comes down to like not just Kung Fu, but like action stars and things like that. And I'd say Kung Lee is definitely more of a fighter than he is an action star. But even so, people give, generally Kung Fu a harder time than it really does deserve. Mostly because of the movies, which, I mean, I can't blame them. A lot of the earlier movies, as much as I hate, well, not hate, as much as I have a very much love-hate relationship when it comes to like Hong Kong cinema in the sense that the movies they put out can oftentimes be really good, but they're not always the best depictions of how someone would fight in that situation. That's probably perpetuated a lot.
I mean, the Hong Kong movies are pretty good. I think you're thinking of the ones that were like predating even now.
Probably.
This like, what is it called? Like Wu something?
What?
Now, Wuxia films.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's more so what I'm thinking. Yeah.
like the old Chinese opera movies back in the day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that goes into some of the Hong Kong cinema too,
A
I'd
little
say.
bit. Hong Kong was
Yeah.
like when it started to adapt. It was like because obviously all of Jackie's old movies, like why can I not think of any old Jackie Chan films right now? I know all of them.
Yeah. I will
Police
say, I
Story.
don't know.
Yeah.
What story?
Police Story. There's 7 Police Story films that are old kung fu films with Jackie Chan.
Oh, yeah, I remember those. My granddad, the one who's still alive, actually has a poster in his house for that. I think he's trying to get rid of it too. I might actually be able to get that off of him next time I come into town. Be great, like liven up this storm room of mine.
Yeah. And I will say one thing that choreography can also do is it can bring people into that world better. Like it's entertaining to watch for one. And I know people that have no interest in martial arts that will watch like Captain America Winter Soldier and they'll ask me as someone who knows martial arts or any of their other friends like if we can do like the Winter Soldier knife tricks and stuff like that.
Yeah. I will
also,
say film helps, yeah.
Yeah, but also if you are in the martial arts and you're doing if you're going straight into sparring for someone who's new to it, that can be quite intimidating. If you're starting off with like 2-person cars or embu or something else like that, or like just like doing set drills, it's the same thing, and it's better to work someone in. You know, it can make you more likely to come back because it's less intimidating to start off, and then you get to do like the real stuff.
Yeah, honestly, like looking back on everything, like when it came to my kung fu school, performance-based wushu was the most popular class. Like Sanda, for all things, as much as I enjoyed it and as much as I love it, was the smallest class. A lot more people were into the performance arts and just getting on stage and interacting with films and such than they were with the actual application of everything.
I'm gonna place that music video of your performance class here.
Please do not. Please don't. I don't know. Like, genuinely speaking, I don't. It actually, yeah. If Sifu is watching and or hearing this, like, I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not, and I'm not the best person with like cameras and stuff. But like, we need to like do some. Yeah, like here it is. Like we can make some good trailers. Like I don't know what the COVID one was, why we did that. I certainly didn't know it was going to be a thing. I don't know how many of you knew it was going to be a thing, but like, can we do something better? No offense. Like I don't want to be running laps or get my ass kicked, but like we can make something a little bit more like professional or intimidating, I guess.
You're gonna go home and you're gonna be banned from your crew, and I hope you know that.
I don't know. Like it's not like I don't know. It just if I don't know. I didn't have my equipment then, but like if they had said, "Oh, let's make a commercial," like when I still had access to like Photoshop and to like all of my old film gear and shit, I could have done something very nice, or I would have just called you.
I make all my school's trailers, and I've probably made like going on 40, 50 at this point, and I make them all on my phone. And I mean, they've gotten better with time, but I think even from when I was first making them, they were pretty decent trailers. The tutorials the tutorials suck. I didn't have any audio equipment. You cannot hear anything my sensei is saying. But those trailers, man.
Yeah, no, like the private tutorials between classmates, like back when COVID was a thing, were really good. And like the very first trailer for like on the school website, that is really good. That is what I expect. There's just the personal COVID trailer I never really could get into. That one just haunts me, if that makes sense. Like we could have banded together to do something a little cooler. I mean, I know it was very much on short notice and all the videos were filmed at home. And it was supposed to be this whole encouraging thing for more so the students than people who were outside of the school. But I mean, we could have done something cooler.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it is still salvageable parts of it.
I mean, yeah, like when some of the actual instructors are on stage, then yeah, it's just, I think the big problem with that is just consistency, really, because you have someone who's doing really good and then you switch over to someone who's like 5 years old.
True.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the kids are the most salvageable part because there's no excuse for the adults to.
Let's not go that.
I'm not saying they were bad. I'm just saying that some of the cameraing was kind of weak.
I mean, I think some of the adult bits were better than the kid bits. I get you want to have the sense of youth, but I don't know. I'm not going to try and get my ass banned today. So
That's fair. Okay, so going off of all of what we've talked about, we've discussed so far some of our favorite fight scenes and stunt choreography. We've discussed some of the benefits and things we've learned from going off of this, and we've discussed why we think fight actors get sort of a bad reputation when it comes to actual physical ability in terms of their martial skill. So, what do you think makes good fight choreography?
that really depends. I think what makes good fight choreography to me is just something that's always more or less growing and changing as I get older. I mean, originally speaking, as a kid, I even really did love shit like Kung Fu Hustle when it was more cheesy and things, but like going more so into combat application courses and everything like that, I've just gotten more so of an eye for, realism, I suppose, nowadays. It really can't be shooken. But I mean, I think a good fight is something where you can more or less blend application for, the people who are actually aware of how these things should work with a bit of humor and a bit of lightheartedness for the sake of the audience as well, without having to just, decide one or the other.
Well, let's hop on something you said there. You said a bit of you said realism, like you have an eye for realism, and it needs a bit of realism to be a good fight. What does realism mean to you in terms of a fight choreography? Because a lot of people will say different things. People will say like, well, if it's using the environment, then it's realistic. People will say if both sides are getting hurt, then it's realistic. If one person's dodging a lot, then it's probably not as realistic. But then you see realistic fights that look like a lot of dodging. You see realism can mean some people will say realism means it looks like a MMA fight and not a kung fu film, but like you see people fight like that anyway. So what do you mean by realism?
I mean, realism, I think it's more so situational depending on the film. Like for that film you showed, Legend, that is what you expect when fucking gangsters go to war. That is what you want. That is what you would see on the street. To me, I think it more or less depends on what you're trying to depict. But for the most part, I'd say realism to me is more than likely you can use your environment. That's cool. Jackie Chan is right on that angle. Hell yeah. If you have a chair fucking slamming on somebody's head, or if there's a hammer around, use that shit. Like, do what you got to do to survive in the moment. Because in all means, we are the outsiders looking in on a film. If you're really acting the way you're supposed to be acting, then it should be believable that your character's trying to survive in a situation. And when it comes to a fight, for the most part, it's not meant to look pretty. You can definitely have prettier moments, and if that's a character you're going for, like Ip Man, for instance, where it's big thing, like the big focus of his character is being basically the physical representation of Wing Chun as a style, then hell yeah, go for all that. But if you're going for just a regular fight scene in a film where there's just not really a martial arts based focus like the Avengers films, get gritty, get bloody, get that, sense of urgency in there, A real life fight's not going to be pretty.
I think with Ip Man, you can see a big sort of disparagence between what's realistic and what's not, because a lot of people will point to it and say, these fights are realistic. You have sort of like equal power scales. You have people trading blows and stuff like that, people getting hurt. There's people get their arms broken and everything. But then you have people like flying through the sky to land on a spinning table that works like a seesaw that spins.
Yeah.
And like people like doing flying kicks and getting punched backwards in midair with the like there's a big sort of like difference between what works and what doesn't. And I think they blend it well enough to keep a little bit of like the iconic old school movie stuff whilst also making it realistic. And some people would say it's not realistic just because they're using kung fu, but like even if you don't believe it works, which like I don't understand why you wouldn't at this point, it's kind of just ignorance. But even if you don't believe it works, for the styles they're using, that is realistically how they would fight, with some theatrical elements. Like they're using
Yeah.
a very form style, but it's real.
Like I was saying, I think it really does come down to what you're trying to do within that moment. For a film that is completely martial arts based, like Ip Man, that is beyond acceptable, and that is what you want. But it also depends on environment and style. Like for Never Back Down, like Boyaka, his fight with Chief Crowder, that's gritty, that's bloody. They're trying to fuck each other up for money in front of a bunch of greedy ass Russians. That is what that fight is going to look like, minus some of the crazier kicks on his part, on Scott Adkins' part. But for the most part, it just really, to me, comes down to what you're trying to depict and how you can more or less accomplish that within said, interval, pretty much. If I'm going for a fight scene where it's just between two individuals who've never really had training at all in their lives, and they're going to be fighting like they would on the street, like in that film, they're going to be taking cheap shots. They're going to be kicking each other when they're down. They're going to be fucking throwing people, into chairs and shit, or like shoving people into, different objects in the room. It's just more so, to me, what defines realism is just based on the environment and how you fight within that environment for the type of thing you're going for or theme you're going for.
Yeah, I feel like realism in terms of like if you're doing choreography for learning stuff like you do with two-person katas, with embus, with the choreography they do at Shaolin temples, then realism simply means that you're using your real techniques and you're not trying to do a bunch of spinny flashy stuff. Like if you were to do that in fighting, people would think that was good. If you were to do it in your forms, people would say that's a good form.
Yeah.
Realism
I
in terms
think-
of like film
yeah.
choreography, it shows something realistic in terms of techniques. It can be realistic in terms of what it's like representing, like you saw the Paper Tigers, right?
Yeah, I saw Paper Tigers. I've been debating on buying it actually just to support Martial Club, honestly.
Yeah. So what was the main character's name? That's like Danny.
Danny Eight Hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, the main character in Paper Tigers, he has that Zen mode thing in the end of the fight where he goes into his 8 hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that people would say, well, that's not realistic. But anyone who spars, anyone who goes into a fight, knows that you get into certain mindsets and you can see stuff coming if you have the right breathing. You can't always react to it fast enough, but you get to a point where you can you have to predict stuff if you're in a fight. You can't just rely on it happening. You need to see it coming.
Yeah, Paper Tigers is definitely like an amazing example of that. Like in the sense that everybody there fights how you would expect in the fight, given their backgrounds and how they're meant to be depicted.
Mhm.
Like there's no inconsistencies. Like as much as I do find this fight scene to be the most hilarious thing to come out of that fucking year, like Thanos versus Hulk is a good example of how inconsistencies can kind of throw something off. Like as funny as it was to watch Thanos legit beat the bitch into the Hulk, like it kind of came out of left field to the point where you just did not expect him to be throwing fucking elbows, roundhouse kicks, and just basically dismantling this person in a very much martial arts sense of application. Like, that's something you expect from Captain America, not for some 12-foot tall fucking purple giant behemoth. I mean, it was still fucking hilarious though. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, he legit beat the bitch into the Hulk, and that was fucking priceless. Like, that man did not want to come out for the rest of that fucking film.
Yeah, which, I mean, I enjoyed that. I thought it was a good sort of display of his just like the idea of mentality versus of like being conscious versus just being strong. Because like I think if it was like deadlifting, Hulk would win that. But the fact was that Thanos just could fight better.
Well, I mean,
but he was sort of like too big to where some of it looked awkward, I guess.
I don't doubt like Thanos just giving his character arc and how he was supposed to be depicted could fight well. It just a lot of the moves he was more so not really. It's not what you'd really need if you were that fucking big and that like with that much raw power, even without the fucking stones. Because like comic book Thanos killed Spider-Man without the stones. Straight up overpowered him and crushed his fucking skull in with a rock.
And comic book Spider-Man could knock out a T-Rex with a single punch.
Yeah, like comic book Spider-Man is fucking like ridiculous when he stops holding back. Like Thanos, at least in my eyes and how I've seen him depicted, even within the MCU, is supposed to be that force where it doesn't matter how strong you are in terms of raw strength or even skill. It is that immovable object that is slowly creeping towards you, and nothing you're doing is working.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Marvel's another one to go back to in terms of realism, because obviously they have their big sort of alien fights with like hundreds of people getting blasted out of the sky, but they do have those close down one-on-one combat situations, there's always when was the first one they did of that? I'd say like
the first Marvel film was technically Blade.
No, that wasn't in the MCU. The first Marvel film in the MCU is Hulk.
I mean, yeah, but if you want to be real, Blade started all that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying there, but I'm thinking just in terms of the MCU, just because of the scale of it. Blade's a little easier to talk about what's realistic and what's not, because it's all sort of melee weapon fighting, even if they do have vampire athletics. But in terms of the MCU, I'd say like you go into Iron Man 2, you can see Black Widow using her like luchador wrestling style. You can see the boxing training and kickboxing training, things like that happening. You can see in Captain America, obviously, like the street fights and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you go into like Winter Soldier, and you've got that knife fight on the highway.
I will say, like, Marvel right now is kind of the king when it comes to choreography, in the sense that, as you were saying, like every character fights for the most part how you would expect them to fight. Like with even their Netflix series, except for Iron Fist, because that shit was ass, being pretty fucking on point. Like Luke Cage just standing there is fucking hilarious, because that's what you do if you were that fucking powerful. You just sit there as everybody's shooting at you or someone's trying to punch you in the face.
I think like especially now Marvel's got like Shang-Chi and stuff, we can expect they've got some really big names on in terms of their stunts. They've got a lot of good stunt choreographers.
Have you seen that yet still, or not?
I've still not seen it. I've seen the fight scenes.
Like maybe, I don't know, we could like, instead of that, obviously YouTube has problems with us uploading and reacting to a full-on movie. Maybe if we went to Twitch or something like that, we could all do a live reaction of Shang-Chi.
That would be entertaining. But I think Marvel just keeps getting better in terms of their fight choreography. They've got like big names on their stunt team, and it's pretty impressive the things they can pull off,
Yeah, no, like I was expecting them to like completely fail with Shang-Chi, if I'm being honest. Like I never expected it to actually turn out to be like even the slightest bit of actual like applicableness within the films, just because,
especially after Mulan, like Disney.
Yeah, especially after Mulan, I was just expecting them to go full Hong Kong bullshit, just not like maybe not even use Kung Fu, honestly, with the way they were going with some of the other films and such. But like they impressed me. I'd say it's honestly a 10 out of 10 in the sense that everything they're doing for the most part, minus the shit that's meant to be mystical, is very much just applicable, you know? Take out the wires, I guess, and the magic, and you've got people just basically throwing hands.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on to another question now. Um, when was what was your first experience of fight choreography? Like, when did you first sort of realize that fights in films weren't real fights? And like, when was your first time you started acknowledging how they were putting everything together?
Blade.
Blade?
Yeah, obviously you're not going around spin kicking people or using gun. What's the meme? Gun fu with the posing and the shooting.
Yeah, gun fu, gun kido.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
speaking of that, John Wick films. Holy shit! Just need to
yeah.
side note John Wick, but go on. Yeah,
Like,
Blade.
I love fucking Blade. That is my favorite superhero, not gonna lie, just in terms of like comic books. But like the films looking back were not the best in terms of choreography. Some scenes were really good, but like looking back, a lot of that shit just does not fucking age well. It was badass at the time though. Like it was probably the best thing we ever had in that general era and time frame. Because that was like pre-MCU.
I mean,
Really?
that was the time of everything. They had Blade, they had X-Men, they had the Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
Yeah, but like when it came to X-Men and Spider-Man, there was never really any straight up fight scenes where they were like being tactical or super applicable with it. You know, like with Wolverine.
Did you not see the final fight scene in Spider-Man 1?
I wouldn't really call that fucking applicable, dude.
I mean, it was
Spider-Man.
like, in terms of using superpowers, I'd say it was fairly realistic.
I mean, yeah, I guess in the sense that, yeah, you have spider sense and you're able to actually do that if you were to have those abilities. But I mean, if we're talking from like the perspective of the average martial artist or man, not so much. Like Blade was the only one I think where, even though I kind of, looking back, hate how much they turned down the vampires and just the supernatural enemies. Like he was basically just fighting people, you know what I mean?
Mm.
As much as that is inaccurate to the comic books, and as much as I wish they really did show just how much of a threat vampires actually are in Marvel.
Mm.
You know, since there's a lot of negative connotations around his character nowadays. But, you know,
What
still,
negative connotations?
It's just like a general thing I've seen for the most part when it comes to a lot of like older Marvel fans. Like a lot of them more or less just discredit Blade when it comes down to like being useful. Like, oh, you know, when I was like back in the pre-Infinity War time where they were saying, oh, we're going to have like 72 heroes, you know, in the film, which never really came to be, you know, and people were expecting random additions from the Marvel universe. That's when, you know, a lot of people thought shit was really about to open back up, you know, floodgates. There was a lot of people who were suspecting Blade and a lot of people who were dissing Blade at the same time, the sense of like, what the fuck's he supposed to do, you know? And I can't blame them. Like, fucking the movies, as much as I love them, did not portray vampires as the threats they are in the TV shows and in the comics and shit. But Blade can fuck up like a lot of fucking people. I don't think he'd really be able to do shit against like Thanos at all. Like, he's basically at his base, Captain America, you know, where Captain America would be. Yeah, like Winter Soldier and all that. Like his natural level of strength is the same as Captain America when he's going all out. Like those two are not physically comparable, I think, in terms of raw fucking power if we're going comics.
Okay, so I just want to have us to have a quick look at this because I think there's some parts in this that could be quite like realistic.
I'll admit I haven't seen this in a couple years, so let's see.
Like he literally hit him over the top. He blocked the top, so he hit him in the stomach, kneed him in the face, and then was just making a bunch of hook swings, basically.
I mean, fair enough. Peter is also very much fucked up at this point, so it's not like His spider senses are really on par. I'd say that's pretty good, honestly, for the time period. Yeah.
Those webs don't do shit.
Yeah.
He just tried to punch someone in armor. Knee to the face.
Yeah, I'll
Bruce
say I'm
Lee.
like
Damn, bro.
I'll say for the time period this was filmed, yeah, this would actually have been a lot better than some of the other stuff.
Yeah. That's a creepy ass face.
Yeah. I hope like whenever we do get like Blade back, they update his fighting style a bit and like what vampires are.
Yeah, for
Because like,
sure.
there's a part of the comics like we never really get to see it just because bigger shit is happening, but like people forget like when the scroll came to Earth and started replacing heroes, Dracula was already doing that shit. Like he had vampires in Stark Industries under Tony Stark's nose. He had them everywhere in the fucking White House. Like there's definitely, even though it's hinted at and we never get to see it, there was definitely some type of internal conflict when it came to the Skrulls versus Dracula's court. Like there was definitely fucking fights happening that weren't shown.
Yeah.
And seeing how fucking Dracula was more or less still around after that, it kind of goes to show even Skrill really can't fuck with him in terms of like actual strength. And even Blade's never really managed to kill his ass for good. Like he is a threat that has done like fucking thrown the hands with like fucking Hulk and basically beat the shit out of him in the same way Thanos has before. But I just really do hope once they get around to animating his, well, I mean, not animating, bringing his character to the big screen along with like generally the demons and other creatures Blade fights outside of just vampires.
Yeah.
I just want to, get them to really show what he's really capable of for once.
I mean, they'll have to find an in-universe way to explain all of that, though. But outside of,
Yeah.
I think we've gone a bit on a bit of a Marvel track for a second.
Yeah, probably. This is turned into a bit of a rant.
Okay, so back to the question with the like, when did we first realize? This was one of the first times I started to think about like I before this was like 2011 I think when this came out, so I was already aware that films were choreographed, but this is the first time this showed like Disney made a big deal out of like the training for the choreography behind this show. So this was like the first time I started to analyze and look into it. Coincidentally, it was about the same time I was doing Wing Chun. So this, you ever see this Kicking It?
I've seen all of Kicking It, but it's been like years. I watched it as it was coming out, so I can only remember a little bit. So go ahead.
This is an old Disney karate show from like the early 2010s. It's literally about a karate dojo. And
go check it out if you haven't. Yeah.
This is their tournament rules is one of the things I still like the most is literally like you get knocked out of the square or you get knocked out and you lose.
So like Sanda rules then.
Yeah, like Lei Tai. But it's about karate. So look, they got all those feints and like kick checks and stuff.
Oh
and
shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Back fists, some good like karate blocks.
Shit, I might have to do like a fucking rewatch of this. It's been years. I still remember when the last episode of Kicking It aired.
Yeah.
But it has been a long time. What's with the sand effect?
The guy there was cheating. He had sandbags in his gloves.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, is he about to kick him again before he falls?
But yeah, so Kicking It had some like really good sort of fight scenes. And I'm just gonna put some other ones on because fuck it.
Yeah.
Why not? This was the first fight scene in the show, and this character Jack, he was played by Leo Howard, who's like a third Dan in Shorin Ryu, and he performed at the like I think it was like the Extreme Karate Championships or something like that.
I've gotten an idea actually.
Oh,
yeah, I was saying like we really could do something towards Twitch or the audience. We get enough comments. Like maybe instead of just the Shang-Chi film, maybe we could do like maybe once a week or so after these podcasts are aired, just an episode of Kicking It in Order until we reach the end of that.
Yeah. They have a fight
'Cause, I
every
mean-
episode. Look at that cat. It's a punch cat.
Yeah, they have a
Twister.
fight every episode of
Oh.
So like we could just watch one episode of Kicking It a week.
I like the way they use the environment in the fights, and there's a lot of like dodges and counter kicks, like just using the front kick to counter like side kicks and round kick. Sweet.
Yeah.
Get the high ground, Obi-Wan.
This is what Cobra Kai should have been.
Yeah, no, like people have been saying they need to get this dude to come back for Cobra Kai.
I don't know. This fight just seems somewhat more impressive.
Yeah, well, Cobra Kai actually they've got a new stunt choreographer for this season, so we'll be able to see some new stuff hopefully.
I want to see more styles in Cobra Kai, honestly.
Like they had a cafeteria fight for Cobra Kai. It was like maybe half this good. And I love Cobra Kai, but that's just impressive.
Yeah.
But they're like, that's something you can look at that and say, no, that's not at all realistic. And he was like throwing lunch trays and food and stuff. But he had like kick checks and like wrist locks and counter kicking and stuff like that, sweeps. Like even in these old kids shows, we've always seen like it's been there.
Yeah, for sure though. Yeah, like I said, this is honestly kind of what I was hoping Cobra Kai would have been.
Let's look at Cobra Kai's lunch fight scene in comparison to that last one.
Yeah, like I still love it. Don't get me wrong. Like I love the hell out of Cobra Kai, but sometimes they go down that whole rabbit hole of the Legend of Bruce Lee where they care a little bit too much about the drama rather than getting shit done.
Now, my thing with Cobra Kai is, especially we're going to be watching a fight from season 1. And in season 1, they did a very like old Bruce Lee where like it was like very stop and strike and like single attacks. They got better as it comes into the set later seasons, but we're going to watch this one because it's also a cafeteria fight.
Yeah, I hope they get whoever plays Daniel like some yoga classes.
Yeah, like he's barely flexible, and you can see him like falling over trying to do some stuff. It ruins some big dramatic moments where he's meant to.
Well, I mean, like Daniel
OP.
always fought very stiffly, even when he was in the original like trilogy of films. But like
you can see like William Zabka, who he's like a green belt in Tang Sudo, and you can see he knows what he's doing. He's like way better at fighting.
I just mean in terms of consistency, because like in season 1, it's very hard to believe that this is the fucking Karate Kid, even years later. Like, I get he stopped training after Miyagi died, but like he's so stiff that like Johnny would fucking push his shit back if they ever went at it again, and he's that stiff still.
Yeah. So here's the cafeteria fight from Cobra Kai season 1.
It's not lame ass karate. It's Cobra Kai.
I kind of like that restriction there on the arm, like the way he was like locking it up. That was a decent take. Like he tackled him. This guy is meant to be a wrestler.
A wrestler, yeah. I've
that
seen
is a terrible lockup.
Yeah. I was gonna say I've seen everything up to the current season for
I know,
Cobra
I'm
Kai.
saying for the people that haven't seen it. We don't forget we have an audience.
Yeah, that's fair.
Those are some good round kicks.
That kick. Yeah.
I mean, it was a little bit short on the extension, but like this, he has only meant to have been trained for like a couple of months at this point. I don't believe that lunch tray cannot take those hits being held from like the bottom like that. It would just fold over.
Yeah. Also, what school
you could do that
lunch
with that?
trays still?
I don't know. I'm not American. I don't even go to school anymore.
Like, that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, like that fight was just so much clunkier. And like in terms of like, if we go back to like when he was moving around, there's like those kicks have like way less reach on them. It's also like the camera and kicking it. I know it was on a Disney budget versus a YouTube budget, so I'm not saying like they should have the highest quality of everything, but like the way the camera was moving and catching everything compared to like this.
I was gonna say, to be fair, like the Street Fighter film Assassin's Fist was a YouTube production too.
Yeah, there are so many good like YouTube fight scenes that are like
Yeah,
made just by YouTubers, not by like that was Sony financing Cobra Kai.
yeah. Honestly, that'd be a cool reaction one day too. Would be like Street Fighter: The Assassin's Fist, the fight between like Ryu and Ken. Because I just love the karate in that film. But I get what you mean in terms of like some of the stiffness there. But I mean, it also pays to see that at that point, like his character definitely had only been fighting for a couple months, and there's definitely some issues there that are less so on the part of the actual fight choreography as much as it is a lot of camera work and personal choices that were made for that specific turnout.
Like I've seen some like low quality fight scenes that have been saved by good camera work and stuff, you know?
Yeah, for sure, and like really good angles too.
Now, while we're on I'd mentioned something earlier that we've been talking about where like in fight choreography you get to practice stuff at harder contact than you do normally, right?
Uh, Depends. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. I think I've thought of something that this applies to more than anything because it's something that you can't practice at full contact most of the time, at least without like lots of money. Do you know where I'm going with this? Yeah, weapons fighting. Like,
Yeah,
especially blades, if you're doing like, I suppose you can get training knives, but even with like trainers, you get bruised up. Like when you want to practice real weapons like HEMA, Kendo, all of that stuff.
Like the knife. Yeah, I was gonna say the knives we use for stage combat are real knives, dulled and everything. They can't cut you, but like if I thrusted one of those bitches into somebody, they'd be stabbed. Like all the same.
Now, I'm going to give us a good example of a weapons fight when we talk about weapons. This is one of my. This one's been controversial because some people love it and some people think there's too many spins and stuff. I'm more on the side of loving it.
Yeah.
This is Netflix's Witcher series, which we've talked about. Like,
yeah,
one thing in choreography in films is whether or not the actor is devoted to it. And Henry Cavill did a whole YouTube video just talking about how cool different types of European swords are and going into lore and history and like European sword making.
Everybody in The Witcher put in so much hard work. I love it so much.
Yeah. Some people think there's too many spins in this and doesn't like the reverse grip, but I mean, the reverse grip, not really, but like the spins and stuff normally make sense when they're used in here.
Yeah. I was actually playing The Witcher 3 before we started this podcast.
I've only played 2.
3 is really good, but it's hard to do it without my glasses.
I like the way he moved out of the way of the arrow, but still felt the need to cut it in half just to show them they're fucked.
Yeah.
He's a nice pick because he used it to push through into someone, and he's just not moved back yet. So
yeah.
I like the way he does that. He uses his power to line them up because if you're fighting multiple opponents, you want them to not be coming at you all at once. So he forced them to be behind each other using his like push. Which, like, if you had those abilities in a fight, that's kind of how you do it.
I was gonna say, like, I know
people he was safe, and then he was like, "By the way, my sword's over yours."
Yeah.
People talk about the bind a lot in terms of fight choreography, and that just sort of shat on it because, like, oh, you're binding too long. He's like, yeah, I know I'm binding too long. He thought he was safe.
Yeah. I will say the fights here are really good too. Like, I think people give it a lot of shit without thinking of the context, but like a Witcher in the sense of the games and even in the show is supposed to be beyond human.
And in this fight scene, contextual wise, he doesn't want to kill her. And so she can afford to do stuff. Her spins and stuff, because she's a lot smaller and also not a Witcher, she's got a lot less strength than he does. So she has to spin to even like get him essentially.
And I was going to say, a thing people forget, especially if you play the games, is like in a lot of these fights, like the opponent seems so slow. And I guess while part of that is, to give you the time to react in games, but just within the aspect of the character, like if he wanted to swing one time and go through her, he probably could.
Yeah, like you can
any of those
see
people.
the skill disparity here that he knows she's fucked, she knows she's fucked. She's got
I was
like
gonna say,
two surprise hits on him and he's deflected everything and
not
just
even
stolen her
this,
weapon.
yeah,
I
not
want to go
even
back
this,
to that disarm quickly.
yeah,
Anyway, you
not
were saying
even
Nutty.
the skill difference, but like the strength difference. Witchers are built to kill shit that are naturally stronger than humans, like werewolves, fucking griffins, and shit. That, if anything, most wild animals in general, just as a placeholder, have the strength to overpower most humans for the most part. He is bred more or less to do that easily. So, like, if he wanted to swing and just cut through them and probably even go through their fucking swords, he probably could.
I love this disarm so much that he does here when he takes her weapons. He blocks downs and she uses her weapons to block it, and he just lifts his own sword and throws them out of her hand.
Yeah,
That's just so clean.
it really is. Yeah.
But like, if you're doing sword choreography, when else? Like, you've got blunted weapons. You've practiced this again and again and again and again to the point where you can use it at speed. When else are you going to be able to practice your weapons like that without having like a grand's worth of armor?
Oh, living in the Philippines.
Damn it.
Am I wrong?
A little bit. No, you're not.
Or like Myanmar? Sorry, that wasn't politically correct, but I mean,
It was kind of fucked up.
I've heard stories. Is all. I don't know for sure. I'll put that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the fight scenes that are on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you this one. This one was reviewed by Scott Adkins, and he said he could not name a single thing wrong with this fight scene. So this is entirely by a YouTube channel. They're the YouTube channel I mentioned earlier that does Stuntman React. It's Corridor, and this is John Wick with Nerf guns, and it shows you like choreography. You don't need the best gear. You can make this realistic with just some good cameras. And I'm gonna shut it down because the sound they use for the Nerf guns, it sounds pretty realistic. Oh, it's in half speed. Damn it.
I will say I actually do have another video and a channel I think we should also try and get a look at while we have the time.
Okay, send me it.
Yeah.
Tell me the name after this, and we can bring it up.
Yeah.
So here's Nerf John Wick by Corridor.
Man, I miss my Nerf guns.
Talking about some gun fu. Look at this. Dodge it. Good disarm. Elbow. Pop, pop. Skip through when they're actually fighting.
I was gonna say, like, how much time does he have? Oh, yeah, no, that's pretty on point.
Look at the way the camera. We talked about this. The camera movement in terms of it is really selling this.
Yeah.
They kick the gun out of his hand. That's a good lock, honestly, for people that don't do martial arts. Actually, I think this guy's done kendo before. The guy that's playing John Wick here. That was funny.
I will say, I legit can't see anything wrong. He's aiming correctly and managing his distance well.
God damn.
Yeah, to be fair, one shot is all it would have taken.
The amount of thought and timing that had to go into this for them to like know which guns have the same clip so that you can take it out of one gun and put it into another.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at the guns they're using, specifically that one, a lot of the older generation Nerf guns had reusable clips that were pretty fucking universal. You just tell by the color, really.
I don't know anything about Nerf guns in that level, man.
I used to have a shit ton, dude.
I still have a load at my house. Most of them are my little cousins. his cat ate some. So
They used to have like that generation, like the blue and orange generation of Nerf guns, where they made them like basically toy versions of real life guns.
Mm.
You had fucking magnums. The one I had, which I broke and was never able to fix, was basically a 50 cal sniper rifle.
Which channel did you want us to look at while we were here?
Yeah, let me find that video for you. It's something I've just been watching in my spare time for a while. I'll admit right here and now it's not in English. I think they're speaking some sort of like Portuguese or something. However, it is pretty
is it
good.
that like Kung Fu versus Muay Thai and Kung Fu versus Capoeira?
Yeah,
Yeah, which one did you want us to watch?
the Muay Thai one.
Muay Thai versus Capoeira, Kung Fu versus Capoeira?
Muay Thai versus Kung Fu.
Kung Fu versus Muay Thai.
Yeah, if you can find that one.
Yeah, it's Pinoya Films.
Yeah. Shout out to them, by the way. I can't understand anything you're saying half the time, but you guys are really good.
No, these guys are really good. I'm just gonna skip into like cut the opening because we don't really use their whole video.
Give me some subtitles one day, please. I want to know what you guys are saying and thinking about. Same thing goes for King of Dragons.
King of Dragons, I think they said they're gonna be doing a dubbed commentary.
Yeah, they told me that a year ago, Kieran. I wrote a comment and they directly responded me saying, like, yeah, we're going to do it probably next season. And nothing came of it.
We're not gonna share sound for this. We're gonna be commentating.
Yeah, there's no reason to share sound.
So, as far as I'm aware, the guy in black is Muay Thai and the guy in white is Kung Fu, right?
Yep.
That was okay. They could have showed his landing a bit more, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the entire point, as I've been able to understand it, even with the language gap, is that this is meant to be their like villain for the most part, the Kung Fu guy. And the Muay Thai guy is mostly trying to get away and not actually engage him in a fight.
The Muay Thai guy's got a limp. I think that's from the parkour at the beginning, which people will know if they go and watch the full fight. Okay, that's a decent stance, like a very traditional stance.
Yeah.
With that low. Do you know what I learned about the low stance? Oh, nice flying knees, elbow, spinning elbow. The low stance is so that you can switch between it and you can get good low body hits. It's a level change to increase your power.
I did not know that.
1-inch punch?
Yeah, 1-inch punch.
I love the 1-inch punch. I do it all the time.
I think chain punches are cooler, really. They're just a lot more useful for actual sparring.
I'm saying this as a Wing Chun guy. I think you're the only person in the world that thinks a chain punch is cool.
It's good for if you want somebody to get off your ass in a bind.
The point of it, as far as my belief in terms of Wing Chun, because obviously a lot of this is interpretive and lost, is to back someone up. Like you move in on someone and you just hit them so much that they hit.
One?
Let's go back, yeah.
It again. Yeah. I want to see what he did there again.
I want to learn to kip up. Okay.
Hell yeah. I think that's probably how I fucked up my knee.
So that was just like a butterfly kick where he landed with the foot instead of the.
Yeah, but he landed really well into that stance too. That was honestly pretty cool.
I think they probably cut there.
Yeah, they cut there. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
And then he tries the same thing, and he also hits with the heel. Weird. You expect the Muay Thai guy to hit with the shin? Roll out the way. I love that. This a lot of people would say isn't realistic because they're using all the jumping techniques, which like you can see, but
yeah.
I mean these are all real techniques. It's just you normally wouldn't do them all in sequential order. But I've seen Muay Thai guys that exclusively do this.
Yeah. And I will say only that's. Oh shit! Yeah.
Those were all elbows to the head. They were to the top of the head though, so it would have been better to get in the back. But and now he's coming in with his arm strikes, his break heels.
Yeah, and now he's doing his knees as well.
Which most people just don't know that Kung Fu has knees.
Yeah,
because they
That's
don't
true.
use it in Sanda. They use it in Lei Tai, I think.
I don't know why we don't use knees and elbows. There's really no reason not to. We're more armored up than most arts, really.
I really think it's because a lot of it was meant to replicate karate, and karate tournaments don't use it. Muay Thai wasn't as big when the Wushu Foundation created
Yeah, but the
Sanda.
entire reason we became a thing was because of that one tournament back in like the 30s, I think. When they sent all those people over to Thailand.
Mm.
I will say I wouldn't have done probably as many of those like spinning kicks as much, though. I definitely would have focused more so on trying to beat them in the hands route. But I honestly just kind of love this short little film they made here.
Yeah.
Really.
I like the
It's
Kung
very
Fu
cool.
versus Capoeira one most, I think, because it showed
Yeah.
Capoeira using punches more than anything else.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
No one thinks of punches with all that elbow into the leg. there.
Yeah.
Also,
Like,
can I just
doing-
say, Muay Thai guy
Yeah.
has fashion sense, like that bandana on the arm. That's something you have to be able to pull off that not everyone can.
Yeah, no, like his drip is real. Also, credit to any human being who can fight in blue jeans.
Oh yeah, no, I hate fighting in jeans.
I
My
enjoy them.
my friend in Kempo, who he's the Taekwondo guy, he always wears jeans. I'm like, my dude, please.
Yeah. No, like I legit do not wear jeans. There's not a single pair of blue jeans that can be found in my entire wardrobe.
I have I have 2 pairs of black jeans and 1 pair of like gray blue jeans.
Like I have dress pants jeans, like khakis, but I don't have any blue jeans. I just don't like them at all.
See, Kung Fu guy's got it real. He's just wearing like running gear. He's got a running shirt. He's got running trousers.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Ooh, that is-
whoa! What was? Let's see that again. The kick comes in. He wraps his leg over it and grab. I feel like that's probably from some sort of form.
That's got to be from like a form of some kind.
Yeah, I've seen Muay Thai guys do it actually. Like, I've seen it in Muay Thai, so I'm pretty sure it's probably in Wushu because everything's just in everything if you really look into it. I've seen him do it to an arm, but not a leg.
Mm.
I love the eye strike. That's one of our basics in Shrenji Kempo.
We don't really have a lot of those, but I could get it.
I mean, that's because you
99
guys are competition fighting. You wouldn't want to poke someone in the eyes in competition. That's just bad etiquette.
I mean, we jab people in the eye sometimes if you want to be a dick.
Yeah, but you're not meant to be punching people in the eye or sticking your fingers in people's eyes.
Yeah, but if you're punching them in the face with gloves that take up 90% of their face, you're also pretty much hitting them in the fucking eye.
That was a beautiful piece of choreography. No
Yeah, I was going to
complaints
say,
there.
if you want to do the capoeira one, or how are we
Oh.
looking in time?
No, I want to show you this. Have you ever seen Once Upon a Time in High School?
No, I've
So-
seen Once Upon a Time in fucking California, I think.
Hollywood? Okay, so
Yeah.
this is a movie. It's a Korean school movie about a kid that gets bullied, and he
Mhm.
starts watching a bunch of Bruce Lee movies and learns Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah.
It's hardcore. This is probably the best nunchuck choreography I've ever seen.
Yeah. I honestly kind of want to learn nunchucks just because of the aesthetic, really.
Like, this isn't spinny nunchucks. This is pure brutal nunchucks. So
Oh, no, I
that's
mean,
the
like,
bully
the
there, and
actual-
that's the kid that got bullied. Following him, they're gonna go up to the roof to fight. And
No, I mean like application purposes. I want to learn.
he just starts already. He's literally just follow him and swinging them down.
Yeah. I feel like legally speaking, you could probably get away with nunchucks in situations where you probably couldn't get away with like knife work.
Look,
'Cause
he
that's
has
how you
no
learn
technique.
it.
He's swinging those hands around just side to side. They're wrestling. He's choking him up. A lot of people don't know Korea has like a really good, like, famous wrestling style.
Oh, they
Its own form
do,
of judo. Yeah.
Well, I
You see, the
mean,
Bruce Lee guy is using a
cool.
lot of kicks and stuff, and he's just destroying this bully.
yeah, no, fuck them up. Shit, yeah, no, this is.
By the
a
way,
fucking
he
fight.
is very sloppy. Like, none of that is clean at all. It doesn't look choreographed. It looks like he's doing this just pure recklessly, and it looks like Oh,
Well,
and then
that's-
one of the bully's friends just.
I was going to say,
Just a
that's the
glass
point,
pane.
though. Like, if you're getting this down in a fight, you're getting down out of passion. Technique is not what you're thinking about. You're just
Yeah.
thinking about getting it done.
And you can tell he's not sparred enough to be completely instinctual yet, but he's got it down.
Yeah.
He's just swinging these on everyone. He's jumping and swinging them. He's swinging them at legs. Just any hit he gets, he's hitting
Well,
them
I
with
mean,
it like a
yeah.
Kubaton.
People forget nunchucks are basically the Eastern equivalent of a flail.
And people say like nunchucks don't work. I'm like, I'm not fighting someone with nunchucks. I'd be more scared of nunchucks than a stick because there's less places to block on it.
I'd be just scared in general if they have nunchucks for the sake of who the fuck does that?
I know people.
Like you gotta admit, there's an intimidation factor in the sense that, like, oh, I'm gonna go mug this guy. Wait,
That
he's got
he's
nunchucks.
just smashing him off a metal door.
Yeah.
Why
I've
is
seen
there
that
just a
happen in
pile of
school.
chairs on the roof?
Probably a shitty school.
Yeah,
We'll say that one thing that like always
he
concerned
is
me.
fucked up.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Like,
no, I love that fight scene.
Yeah. One thing I've always kind of thought was weird, maybe it is just an Asian school thing, but like, what school lets you get on the roof?
That's very true.
Like, if you want to go on the roof, I'm sure, like, there's always a passage up there for like custodians and shit, and it's not impossible. Like, we climbed up on the roof a couple of times in my middle school when I was young. That
I
was
went
like,
up to the roof once in secondary school, and I was in the journalism club, and we were filming a football game.
yeah, no, like we used to sneak up there, but that was specifically when school wasn't in progress, and that was like a pain in the ass to actually do and really a hassle. What school is just allowing you to be able to go up on the fucking roof?
True.
Like, we don't even have doors that go up there. You have to go up like a fucking ladder that's barely fucking functional. And even the custodians usually don't go up there, but like unless there's something that's a direct, cause for them to go up there. Like there's a dead raccoon or some shit they need to go scrape off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't normally go up to the roof I don't think anyone really would.
Yeah, no, like we did that a couple of times, and that was more so me just following my friends up there rather than me wanting to go up there because I do kind of have a thing about heights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think. Do you have any closing thoughts about fight choreography in terms of what makes it good, what makes it applicable? Anything we've talked about today?
I mean, this is more so a personal opinion than it is a big overarching narrative or anything. But I mean, if you're doing like purely application stuff and you ever have the chance or the ability to do some performance stuff, give it a shot, honestly. I mean, it might not seem as cool or as interesting, but I mean, it's something I've found to have fun with. And I think it's something that regardless of whether it's performance wushu or stage combat, you could probably learn some things and just overall have fun. Really.
100%. I couldn't have said that any better myself. So, okay, so thank you guys for joining us on the Daycast podcast. This has been Beast and Lucario talking about fight choreography and getting lost in all of our random nerd shit that we just enjoy too much. If you like this, don't forget to hit like and let us know. Leave a comment letting us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to see more of, what you want to see next time, any questions you want to have answered or discussed on this podcast or on our mini episodes or any short mentality video. We've been doing short videos recently, and we want to know what you guys think of those as well. Check out our Instagram, our TikTok, our website, everything you'll find, Combat Connections. Keep training, guys. Until next time, peace.
Yep.